All right, my friends, we're going to go ahead and get started. It is 3:30 straight up and down in Chicago on a day that's 100 degrees outside, so I'm glad to be in the house. This is our 30-minute QA. I think I am going to take a slightly different approach today than I've taken in the other QA sessions, because I've received a number of comments in cases and things like that people are having some confusion, especially about SOSL. So I thought I'd take maybe 5 or 10 minutes and do a little demonstration of SOSL, and then maybe do the same thing for SOCL. And then we can go beyond the 30 minutes if you have questions after that. But I think it might be better to have you actually see a couple examples of some code and stuff that might clear up some of the questions that I have been getting. Let me see here. Okay, so what I did about half an hour or so ago was go out and get myself a new developer org, so I knew that it didn't have a lot of junk in it. And I have the developer console open for it right now. And what I've done what I've done down in the query tab is I've embedded a SOCL query. The syntax is a little different when you do it in the query editor tab than when you do it in Apex. But this is the syntax. Acme is a literal.
stop.
Um, One would be the contact. What is the 13 in the log? Well, let me go see what it says in mine here, because it's going to vary depending on what I'm looking at. Oh, that's the line number. Yeah, that's literally the line number. So if you look here, line 13 is the system.debug. So it's showing me the line number in the execute anonymous that's generating that output. If I go back in and put Acme in and execute it again, and open up the log and debug only, you see that I've got 888 and 13 a whole bunch of times. That's because it's line 8 that's doing the system.debug of the account name, and line 13 that's doing the system.debug of the contact name. Yeah. Let me get back here. Yeah, I'm not going to answer trigger questions right now unless nobody else has any other questions, because that's next week. And if it's when you say your sandbox, Chris, is that something at work? Because I'm not allowed to answer your work questions. I'm really not.
Hello.
So if that's something from your production or your org, I cannot answer that. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to be your consultant, unfortunately.
Oh, I completely agree.
How to decide when one uses a list other than array. Yeah. Well, I think what I mentioned when we were talking about data types the other week is that you'll almost never use the array notation. This is the exception, because I actually have to touch each of the specific first dimensions, if you want to think of it. Think of this as row 0 is the accounts, row 1 is the contacts. This is one of the very few cases you will have to they'll have to use the subscripted notation. But in almost all other cases, you'll use the for loop like we sort of did down here and just iterate through the list using an iteration variable. Yeah. All right, let me go back. Get my...
Yeah.
Come on here, Greg. Here we go.
Yeah, do the math. I mean, you listed out all the days. I saw that on your list.
Michelle asked about Sasso. Workbench is technically no longer supported by Salesforce. It was always a third-party project, and it has a number of rather significant security issues. So you really should not use it to touch any org that has any production data in it. It has some pretty serious issues. It was never written by Salesforce, and it is technically not supported by Salesforce anymore. Again, I'm not going to talk about static methods right now. Because that's a little ahead. We'll do that on Friday, unless we run out of if we have time here, we can. Technically, Sockle and Sasso can be done in Workbench. What would be the advantage one over the other? That's kind of what I just said. Workbench is not officially Salesforce, and it is no longer recommended as a tool from Salesforce because it just has some issues. It has some security issues. Irina, I don't know what you mean by static Sockle or static Sockle. Can you tell me what that means, please? Just put it in text, in the chat, rather. I'll come back to that. Did that one. Yep. Let me, I've been muting people, but I'll do it again. There we go. Yep. Right. Okay, good. That's all right. I missed a question. I got to find it. Point of discrepancy. That only happens on the full decision. We don't do that in pre-approval, right? Well, I'm not. Oh, there it is. Can we use blah, 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 blah? Well, first of all, I personally, whoops, I lost it again. I would never declare a list like they're doing here, where they're declaring a list using the array notation. I know they do that, but it's not recommended. You really should use list of contact. And really what they're doing is, what you've said there. Let me demonstrate what the question is. I think that might make more sense rather than me just chattering on about it. Let's suppose I want to do this. I have, I created 3 accounts before this session started that all have Acme as a part of their name. And what I want to do is delete them. I want to delete them with Apex code. So there's a couple of different ways you could do that. I could do something like this.
Right, exactly. Because the machine. So here's my question. So if they have a machine.
Come on, fingers. I hate this computer. I'm going to do list of contacts is equal, and then I will put a square bracket query in there that says select ID, because that's the only piece of a record I need in order to delete it, from account where name like, and then in a quoted string, I'm going to go Acme percentage. So that's going to give me all of the accounts that have Acme, good grief, Greg, that have Acme as a part of their name.
Well, here's my thought. Especially actually.
There we go. Oh, good heavens, it's like I've never typed before. There we go. Now, I'm not going to do the delete yet, but what I want to show you is if I click execute on this, oops, I'm missing something. Got it. List accounts, hack list equals. What?
Yeah, exactly. So
column 5, unexpected token. Oh, I know what I did. I've got some bad characters in there. Sorry, I'm going to do it again. List account. Heavens. Good grief, Greg. Sorry. I think it was Friday or something. List. I'm just going to verify my syntax so far. Yes, okay. Cool. Equals select ID from account. Again, what I often do when I'm doing queries like this is I build the query piece by piece. So this is, I'm just going to verify that this is a valid query by doing an execute again. Yep, it's valid. In fact, what you can notice if I look at this, if I scroll down a little bit in the log, it'll actually tell me right here that it returned 15 rows as a result of doing that query. All right. I'm going to go back into this, and then I'm going to do my where clause, where name. Heavens. Like, come on, fingers. Putting my fingers on the wrong keys for some reason. And it's like the string Acme with that. So that's my wild card. This had better be correct. I'm going to just execute it. There we go. So let that finish. And again, if I scroll down a little bit, what it will tell me here is this time it found only 3 rows. So those are the 3 accounts that I created later or created earlier. And then the question was this. I really do want to delete those. What I could now do is just go delete, that's the DML command, hacklist. And that would work just lovely. But what I could also do is this, and this is going to look sort of weird. I actually could go, I'm going to get rid of all of that and just go delete. That, and it doesn't even need to be uppercase. Because if you've done the DML section before or already, what you'll know is that what this delete DML command expects is either a single S object or a list of S object, and what the select in square brackets gives me back is a list of S objects. So I should now be able to do an execute. And again, when the log pops open, if I scroll down a little ways, I will see that it found those 3 rows. And you'll also see in the log that it deleted those 3 rows. So I could do the query into an array, into a list, and then delete the list. Or as I did here, I can just delete directly from the query. Really no difference in what the ultimate impact is. So yeah, either one of those is valid.
Okay.
Let me get back and look at my questions here. All right. let me see here. So, yes, Michelle is exactly right here. If you put the percentage side after, it means starts with Acme. That is exactly correct. And yeah, if you put the percentage on either side, that is contains, exactly. And it's not case sensitive, so it's uppercase, lowercase. Exactly right. I missed a couple here. What is the API version currently? Well, it's whatever version you're on in your org right now. And you can always tell that in one way you can tell it in the developer console is if you would go pretend to create a new class. I'm just going to give it a silly name here. I'm in the class heading here, version 49. So that's the API version of the current version of Salesforce, which is, I think my org is still in summer. We'll be going into, in the summer, it'll be going into the winter release in a month or so. Yeah, so that's one way to tell that, just by going and creating a class. Yep. Or a trigger, it would do the same thing. Waleed, when you say can you use delete instead of select, you mean using delete in the square brackets? Can you just give me a quick yes or no on that? No, you cannot. No, that's SQL. The only thing you can do with SOCL is select. You use DML to do the deletes, et cetera, et cetera. What does the API version tell you? Well, the API version to me tells you two things. Looking at legacy code, it can tell you when that code was created. It also might tell you whether you not need to go and do something like this. Now, indulge me here. I'm making this up for the purposes of the demonstration, but indulge me for a second. Come on, Greg. Let's go out here. I've got this class. Now, granted, there's nothing in this class, but pretend. And what I'm going to do is you can actually revert to a previous version. Through here, I could go back to version 45. It would allow me to save that just fine. I'm saving it right now. Control S. Yep. So let's pretend that this class, whatever it does, was actually created. This would be about almost 2 years ago. In the meantime, they've come out with new functionality, new stuff, putting it really technically, in Apex. And that new stuff was introduced in version 49 in the summer release. Your code that's running under API version 45 would not be able to take advantage of that. In fact, if you reference the version 49 functionality in the class that was created under version 45, it wouldn't compile. So what you'd have to do is go in and upgrade your class, if you want to think of it that way. Then you could use the version 49 stuff, but you also run a very, 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 very slight risk of Salesforce having deprecated old functionality. So I've been doing Salesforce development for 13 years. It's only happened twice, but every once in a while, there'll be some functionality that just wasn't working correctly, isn't relevant anymore. So they deprecate it, they remove it. And when they do that, what they basically tell you the release notes is they'll give you a year's notice, basically. So if something's going to go out of scope, it's going to no longer be supported in the winter 2022 release, they'll put it in the release notes in the winter 2021 for the winter 2021 release. So it is important. For those of you that have a computer science background, you might be interested to know that what Salesforce actually uses is the concept of what they call virtual machine. And again, if this concept doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. But that's how they basically guarantee upward compatibility across releases. Old code runs in the old version of Salesforce. And it's only when you upgrade it that it would go then in a new version of Salesforce. Yes, so Matt says something that's really important. It is often the case that sandboxes will be updated about a month early if you ask them to be. So yeah, there's this slight period of time where something you've developed in your sandbox might not be migratable into production. But that's why, depending on the size of your company or something, there's usually a person that might be called the release management or the deployment manager or something like that. you need to be aware of what the different releases are, what the different versions are in your sandboxes as opposed to production. That's exactly right. Let me see if I missed anything else here. Go to the top. I'm gonna grab this little chunk of code here that I'm not sure who put it in, and I will show you. This will probably be the last thing we'll have time for today, but it's kind of a funky little shorthand that Apex will let you get away with. Give me a second to get it copied in here and get the code put in the right order and stuff. All right, let me get rid of this. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Okay, ignore the dot name at the end of this. And again, what you got to think about is typically this would, the select in square brackets gives you back a list. It always gives you back a list. But by us putting the limit 1 here, what we would know is that there's only going to be one element in that list. So if all we're really interested in is the name field of that element, this syntax isn't going to quite work. What we'd actually have to put here, and I know this is weird, but you got to indulge me here. We know that there's only going to be one element in that list, so I can actually use the subscript .0. That'll give me just a single S object, and then the name field can come out of that. And that would then change how I put a variable declaration, because the name field is just a string. So I'm going to go string ack name equals. I'm going to verify that this will let me compile. I'm pretty sure it will. Index out of bounds. Oh, well, in this case, it didn't find any because I don't have a Singha. Okay, let me go and create an account real fast. That's why I got the index out of bounds here. I'm going to go and create an account. It's called a scene. Yeah, that should be good. I'm going to execute this query again. We should be better this time. Yeah, so it didn't blow up this time. And if I go into it, it found one row. What I probably should have done is this, though, and now I can put a system.debug on there. And I'll go ack name.name. So if I know I'm only going to get one S object back, I don't have to, I can sort of fudge it here, if you will. Come on, Greg. I can sort of fudge it and just immediately go into the 0th position of that and then extract the name. So without the 0, what's in the first square brackets is a list of S objects. We know it's only going to be 1 because we said limit 1. And then in that 1S object, that list of size 1, go to the 0th position, which is the only one, and then grab the name field. And then we'll do this. If I execute it now, an expected token ack name.name system. Oh, dummy, that's why. Here we go. Oh, good grief. I unintentionally deleted stuff somehow or other. I don't know what I did. There we go. Good grief. Ack name.name. Oh, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. All I want to do, because I got it back as a string, I just want to dump out ack name. That's my fault, folks. My fault. So I can just dump out that string. Good grief. Ack name. I'm doing something wrong. Yeah, I really am. I'm so sorry. I was working in the yard all day. There we go. In 100-degree weather. Now what we'll find is it dumped that out. I want to demonstrate one more thing though, and then then we'll wrap it up here. I want to go back out to my org, and I am going to create another account called Singha, which is perfectly legal, assuming you don't have any deduping rules and stuff on there. But I'm going to go out and create another account that's called Singha. There we go. And now we're going to see that there's an error occurring here. Anybody know why? Or anybody know why? Well, the reason is this. Let's execute and see what happens. Okay. I'm gonna change the query a little bit. I didn't quite make the point I wanted to make. I'm gonna go here and change this to an account A. I'm gonna get rid of this for now. This is going to fail. And the reason it's going to fail is that we're now going to get 2 records back, even though we said, actually, let's do this. I'll get it right yet. We're going to get 2 records back, but we only have allocated space for 1. We only have a single account here. So if I now click on the execute, let's get rid of this, though. It will fail. So you need to be really careful. There it is. You need to be really careful about when you're declaring the result of a query as a single S object as opposed to a list of S objects. If you get more than 1 back, the query will in fact fail, as it did here. All right, let me go back into the thing here real fast. Come on, Greg. Isn't this doing this?